These little guys are Stiphodon Gobies, and they're one of my favourite fish in the entire hobby. They're super tough, easy to care for, and full of character and personality. This particular species is Stiphodon Ornatus, more commonly known as the Rainbow Goby. And since I've been keeping these for quite a while now, I wanted to break down everything I've learnt so you know exactly what you're getting into if you're thinking of getting some. The best part is you can use this information for pretty much all of the Stiphodon species in the hobby, as they are all quite similar. Since these fish typically come from fast-flowing river streams, often on volcanic or coastal islands, these environments are rich in oxygen, full of rock surfaces, and constantly covered in biofilm and algae. So if you want the happiest fish with the most natural behavior traits, this is the kind of environment that you want to emulate. Oliver from Below Water was kind enough to send me some habitat footage from the islands in the south of Japan. If you like seeing the habitat of fish species in the wild, he's got some really great content, so go check it out sometime. In the wild, you'll also find multiple goby species sharing the same space, along with shrimp, crayfish, and other small invertebrates. In my experience keeping them, they are 100% shrimp safe and even pair well with dwarf Mexican crayfish. When picking a tank for these guys, I wouldn't get anything less than 80 centimeters in length. These fish are super active and will use all of the bottom space in the tank, so vertical space is pretty much useless for them. A long shallow tank works really good for this species. Once you've picked a tank size that you think will work, aim to create a natural looking riverbed, and this can be done really easy using an assortment of gravel sizes and lots of rocks with smooth, rounded surfaces that will accumulate lots and lots of algae. While doing this, try to make as many random gaps and cracks and crevices in the rock formation as possible. Rainbow gobies love to dart in and out of the rocks and will make their own little burrows as well. They don't typically get startled very easily, but when they do, their first instinct is to go down rather than up. So if you have plenty of hiding spots for them, you generally won't need to worry about having a lid. But if you are worried, you can use one that won't cause any issues. Since these guys like to burrow and dig a little bit, I would also avoid keeping them in a tank if you have or are planning any kind of a lush green carpet. They'll just root it up pretty quickly. Depending on the species you're keeping, they do vary a little bit in size, and the smaller species only reach 3 to 5 centimeters, and the larger ones grow closer to 6 to 7 centimeters or more. Rainbow gobies are generally on the bigger side, though they do grow quite slowly. Because of this size variation, tank size really depends on the exact species you're keeping. They all follow the same basic behavioral traits, so the more substrate surface area, the better. In terms of lifespan, rainbow gobies live quite a long time, especially for such a small fish, so with good care you can generally look at getting about 5 to 6 years out of them. This is very common, and some people have even reported keeping them for more than 10 years. In nature, these gobies spend most of their time grazing on biofilm, algae and microscopic organisms growing on the rock surfaces. I generally run my lights at max power for 12 hours a day for the first 2 months after setting up a new tank for these gobies. This speeds up the algae growth on the rocks, making sure they have plenty of food available. To supplement this, you can give them foods like spirulina wafers, algae-based sinking foods, gel foods designed for herbivores and grazers, and they also do reasonably well on flake foods as well. It's also a good idea to occasionally add protein sources like brine shrimp, small frozen foods, and even bloodworms work quite well. Just don't make it their primary dietary source. For water parameters, these guys do well in pretty much any kind of a pH range, but the main target is to aim for something between 6.5 and 7.5, though most of them can adapt to a wide range outside of these targets. Temperature depends a little bit on the species, but generally aim for something between 22 and 28, as some of the species do come from cooler regions like Japan. In my experience though, keeping Stiphodon Ornatus, the rainbow goby, they're pretty damn tough and will tolerate temperatures from 15 all the way up to about 28. The same goes for water. They can handle really hard water with the TDS between 300 and 900 and a pH way up around 8. The main thing is that you acclimate them slowly. Once you do this, they seem to be able to handle pretty much anything that a home aquarium can throw at them. The most important thing is that the water is clean with lots of oxygen. Rainbow gobies do well in community aquariums as well, so groups of 4 or more are the best, since they are oddly quite social and hang out together more than you'd expect. I haven't noticed any real drama with sex ratios either, so any mix of males and females seems to be fine, which is good since sexing them is also a little bit tricky. Males are generally the more colourful ones. Because they're so peaceful in any sex ratio, and are almost impossible to breed in home setups, it's pretty much a waste of time to even pick sexes anyway. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. In a community tank setup with lots of other species, they generally keep to themselves and won't bother anything else in the tank, so you can keep them with anything that isn't super aggressive. I keep mine with hillstream loaches, shrimps, snails, and sometimes dwarf Mexican crayfish. After a few years doing this, I haven't seen any of the fish get picked on by the crayfish, and none of the fish eat any of the baby crayfish or the shrimp. Both populations boom very well. So unfortunately, breeding rainbow gobies is pretty much impossible at home since their life cycle involves a marine or brackish phase, meaning the eggs hatch in freshwater, but the larvae requires saltwater conditions to develop properly. I'm sure there's videos around where people are working on breeding them, though it's probably going to be out of reach for the average fish keeper. The last thing I'll add before wrapping up this video is that these guys are all wild caught, so that might not be something everyone is comfortable with. They also aren't usually the cheapest fish either, but they do live for a long time and are really interesting to watch going about their daily business. So if you want a bit of an oddball fish that will be around for a long time, I think you'll really enjoy keeping a small group of rainbow gobies.